Hi. Kingwest Resources is a relatively new company. We only listed on the ASX last year, just over 12 months ago. And recently we acquired the Menzies Gold Project, which is about 130 kilometres north of Kalgoorlie, so in the Eastern Goldfields. Why Menzies? Well, Menzies has historic production from underground of 650,000 ounces at over 22 grams per tonne, which is extremely high grade by today's standards. So that's what attracted us. Essentially, there's also been some open cut production in the 90s to bring up the total historic production within our tenement group to 800,000 ounces at 19 grams per tonne. We have deposits over more than 10 kilometres of strike length. We have a consolidated tenement package at Menzies, easy sort of brownfields exploration targets. And with the high grade, of course, you have high profit margin once you're in production. Menzies also has fantastic infrastructure. We're on the main highway north of Kalgoorlie. We own 100% of the tenements. They're all in granted mining leases, which is a big bonus. Proximal to process plants, north and south. We can be trucking up and down the highway relatively easy. We've got water and power, and so we don't need to spend a lot of money to get into production. Here's just an aerial view of Menzies. You can see our tenement package in red. We've already started drilling some of the highest priority drill targets this year, so we're about 2/3 of the way through that. I mean, like I said, we only acquired the project in September. We started drilling straight away. They're all within a short distance of the Menzies town site. No, that laser's not working. Anyway, Menzies town site is right there, trust me. Yeah, so we're focusing on the four highest priority targets at this point in time. Selkirk, Lady Shenton, Vega have all had historic production. There are a number of other deposits which have had high-grade historic production as well. And I'll show you those in a sec. But these are the ones we know most about at this point in time. And so we're focusing on doing that 8,000 metres of drilling right now. So we've got some results back, which I can show you already. And the rest of the results will be coming in over the next month and a bit. We'll finish drilling before Christmas. Now, besides the historic producers, if you look at they're the biggest ones have been First Hit, Lady Shenton and Vega. First Hit produced 170,000 ounces at 32 grams per tonne. Like I said, that's very, very high grade. You don't have any existing mines in WA producing at that grade nowadays. Lady Shenton also produced 191,000 ounces, also at 32 grams per tonne. Vega was the biggest producer, 271,000 ounces at 16 grams per tonne. So they're all proximal to Menzies there. But besides those major producers, you'll see all the other dots there. They're all the other historic producers, or workings. Now, a lot of those are small prospective workings. But what's interesting is when you see them all lining up over several kilometres of strike, that gives us confidence there's other large systems in there which haven't yet been properly drilled out and tested. So we're also at the same time reviewing all those the structural controls on all of those historic workings and try to figure out where there's other undiscovered large lodes as well. It's important to note that we're doing oriented diamond core drilling right now because we really need that structural information on what controls the mineralisation. There's only been 20 drill holes in all of that area drilled to greater than 200 metres depth historically, which is a very low number of deep drill holes. So all of our 24 drill holes we're doing this time around are deeper than 200 metres. So we need that structural information to predict where the lodes go and where we might be able to find additional lodes, either along strike or parallel lodes. And so far we're getting a lot of very good information out of the drilling. And the structural controls do change over that 10 kilometre strike. There's different lithological settings as well, and so we really need that quality information, which the previous explorers have not really collected. I'll just have a look at Vega as an example. We've just finished drilling there. We don't have the results yet, but we will soon. at Yundega, that large blue shoot, that's one of the high-grade shoots which we're targeting and trying to find extensions to, or find more of these. That's over 600 vertical metres. So it's a very significant mine for the time. It shut down around the Second World War and hasn't had any further attention since then, besides some shallow near-surface drilling. So that's all those pink dots, pink and red balls, essentially. What they're showing is the thickness times the grade, so gram metres, and they're more than 40 grams. The pinkish or purple, whatever you want to call that colour, they're more than 40 gram metres. So that's very high grade. We can make money on plus 5 gram metres basically from underground, and even less from surface, but we're interested in these deep, high grade shoots. So the larger the ball is, the larger the gram metres. So that's well over 40. Those big ones down there at the base of the open cut. So the open cut is from the 90s. That's shown in green. So they did produce 64,000 ounces of gold in the 90s, also from open cut. So, and you can see the underground workings in that blue shoot, those shapes. But there's also some, there will be some pillars which have not been extracted there in between the levels. And then recently we discovered in the old records too, DDH1, which is a drill hole from the 1930s, was incorrectly put in our database at 2.4 metres at 1.47 grams per tonne, and we found the original paperwork and it's actually 14.7 grams per tonne. So you can see there's still some gold down there. It's untested to the south and untested where those arrows are, basically below the limit of drilling. So there's still a lot of upside there. We just have to figure out how to target all the high grade shoots, because there's so many targets across the project area. We really need to figure out the best ones to spend our drill dollars on. Lady Shenton, one of my favourites. You see the historic production I mentioned earlier, 32 grams per tonne, which is an ounce per tonne. That once again shut down due to the Second World War. The historic underground workings are about 200 vertical metres, so once again significant, but we think they extend. We're drilling underneath it right now, so we expect to find continuations to that high-grade mineralisation, and then we're also drilling under the pit and looking for strike extensions to the south. Now, interestingly, in the 90s when they were drilling, exploiting the open cut mine, they found another 2 parallel lodes sitting in the footwall. So there's actually 3 lodes there at Lady Shenton underneath the green shape, which is the pit. And then in more recent times, with the exploration focusing on near-surface gold, Pericles has been discovered. That hasn't been mined at all. It's a long strike from Lady Shenton, but offset by a fault. There's lots of late cross-cutting faults which move the mineralisation, made it harder for the old-timers to follow the lodes. Pericles, I mentioned, we drilled a few deeper holes. You can see most of the drill holes there are only about 50 metres deep. So we drilled KWD 7 and 8, deeper intersections there, so 4.9 metres, 8.4 grams per tonne, which we're pretty happy with. And once again, that had a high-grade core, so just under a metre at 36 grams per tonne. And then there's several other good significant hits there as well. Now these lodes open a long strike and at depth. So eventually we can improve on that 42,000 ounce resource significantly just by doing more drilling. That was all just based on that near surface mineralisation. Selkirk is one we've just drilled this year. We just drilled 3 holes and to test those structural controls. Each of them hit significant mineralisation, such as 2.3 metres at 8.36, and that once again included a high grade zone in the middle, 0.78 metres at 21.6 grams per tonne. So these are all economic grades, by the way, from an underground point of view. We had just over a metre at 12.54, and then we had a narrower zone in another hole, half a metre at 32, or a metre at 16. You can see there's some other very significant historic hits, 4 metres at 13, 2 at 17, 3 at 74 grams per tonne. So that's all open at depth, and that once again just requires more drilling. The current resources we have, this is what we've inherited, which basically justifies the price that we pay for the project of $8 million in cash and scrip. But you see that we haven't calculated a resource for Lady Shenton or Selkirk yet, and there's a few other smaller deposits which we need to follow up as well. But yeah, Yundago's got 100,000 ounces, Pericles 42,000 ounces, and a few other smaller ones in there. So we think it's just exactly the right time. Obviously the gold price is highest it's ever been in Australian dollar terms. It's the right time to be going into a high grade, high margin project. It's very easy, maybe logistically, to operate at Menzies. We don't need to spend a lot on capex if we prove up the resource. We can rapidly advance these with targeted drilling. We're not in the grassroots, it's brownfields. So we can prove up resources within a short to medium term time period, and we've got a very experienced management team. Besides myself, Adrian Bias is a geologist and has an economics degree as well. John Price, who was the managing director of Intermin, or now Horizon Minerals, who we acquired the project from. He's a metallurgist, and Steve, they both have corporate and economic experience. And we've got a very tight capital structure, so only 100 million shares on issue. So if we, just prove up something, we should get a lot of leverage off of that. And currently capped at about $25 million as of today's price. Thank you.